more to come in. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's webinar organized by the British Romanian Chamber of Commerce. I'm Neil McGregor, the chairman of the chamber, and I'm very pleased to welcome this morning Madalina Rakovițan and her colleague, Claudia Stan of KPMG, who will be giving us a presentation on how to manage performance and the importance of feedback during remote working times. And I think I can see from the pictures of those attending that most of us, certainly myself, are working remotely. Yesterday was the first day that my team came back to the office on a trial basis. But certainly we find that we have learned a great deal about working remotely. Not only in my law firm, but also in the Chamber of Commerce. Certainly it's clear that these times have changed how we work, and they haven't necessarily been a bad thing in how we do business and how we work in the group, particularly if we're in a group where people may not be in the same city or even in the same country or on the same continent. Now, you have in your views a chat box, which I'll put in the note here. Here you can find the link to the Chamber website with details of today's speakers and of the discussion. We are recording this presentation. It will be available after today on the Chamber website and on the Chamber's YouTube channel. If you have questions, please type them in the group chat box, which I've just put the word here. That can then be seen by our speakers, and they can deal with those questions either in the course of the presentation or at the end. So, on that basis, can I welcome Claudia and Madalina, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say about how to make ourselves more efficient in working remotely. Over to you, ladies.
Thank you, Neil, and good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today, and I want to thank BRCC for organizing this virtual meeting. I know it's a big difference to meet everyone in person, and of course we are eager to do so when better times come around. Nevertheless, I think it's really good that we managed to meet today and to discuss about feedback and performance management, especially in this remote working context. Sorry. I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm a partner with KPMG in Romania. My role at KPMG is to lead what we call people services team. This is a practice of various specializations, let's say, which deal with the people function of our clients. Among different sort of services we provide to our clients, from taxation of expatriates or payroll outsourcing. We focus as well on HR processes within organizations, and this is, let's say, the soft part of HR, the way we like to call it. And I'm joined today by my colleague Claudia. She is a senior manager in our people services team. And she deals mainly with the soft HR part of our projects for our clients. Claudia, if you want to add a few things about yourself.
Hello everyone. First of all, I'm very happy to be here with you today. Well, here at my apartment, indeed, as Neil mentioned, we're still most of us working from home. I think Madalina covered my initial presentation. I'm indeed an HR professional. I've been working for many years in HR, either as HR practitioner or as a consultant for the last, I think, 8 years. And I'll be happy to talk to you about performance management during the next hour.
Thank you, Claudia. So if we go back now to our topic today, performance management and the power of feedback in these times. Of course, we've been working now remotely for, I think, 5 months. And of course, at the beginning, everyone was trying to, put things under control and make sure that things are still functional while we were working remotely, because we were I think you can hear me. Yes. We were initially probably shocked, and we were taken by surprise in a way by everything that was going on. And after the initial couple of weeks, I think people got used to the new way of working. And these days, what we see in the market is that companies, on the one hand, think of how to go back to the office in a way, but we see more and more companies talking about the new reality, and the remote working being, in fact, the new reality of our workplaces, rather than going back to the normal, let's say, we used to know before March. So, I think it's one of the key messages from our side is that we do not expect that things will go back to what we used to consider normal at the beginning of the year, but we really need to get to adapt to a new reality, a new normality. I'm sorry. To a new normality, and this will involve a certain percentage of remote working. And I've seen companies, looking at whether they can be fully remotely on the long run, or they are talking at least about a hybrid way of working where they go to the office for a certain percentage of the time, but the rest of the time is done remote. On the other hand, we also see employees, asking companies for the possibility to work more and more remotely. As we were discussing before this workshop started, there are a lot of benefits for people working remotely. People have children at home; they prefer to be with their families. They find it easier to avoid traffic, to cross the whole city. So there are lots of different things where people prefer to be at home. And therefore, companies will need to manage employees' expectations in a way. And on the other hand, make sure that the business is still run properly and we meet the objectives which we set for our organization. In this context, of course, a lot of HR processes need to be updated and adapted to the new reality. And the way we've done things in the past may not be the appropriate way to do them in the future. And of course, performance management is an important HR process, and not only for HR functions, but for the whole organization, because performance management process is the one process that helps us achieve our business objectives. So it's very related to the overall business, let's say, objectives and outcomes, and therefore it cannot be left aside in any way. But of course, performance management process needs to be adapted to the new reality. And because people have been working remotely and there was less control in a way if you want, from the managers of the employees. I think one of the key trends that we see in a lot of organizations is how to switch basically from evaluating inputs of their people, like, being present in the office, working 8 hours a day. And now they start to focus more on the outputs, on the results of what the employees achieve. So it doesn't necessarily matter how much they work if the employees fulfill their tasks and fulfill their objectives. And I think this becomes more and more important for organization. And I know it's not an easy topic, but I think that it's something we all need to keep in mind. On the other hand, I think another important trend we see is to switch from a performance management process which was happening maybe once a year, at the end of the year, or maybe twice a year, at the beginning of the year when we set the objectives for our people, and at the end of the year when we were evaluating them against the objectives. But given the context, the whole pandemic situation, the economic crisis which came or will come, I think more and more we realize that the objectives which we set, at least at the beginning of this year, in April or May, we very quickly realized that those objectives were not necessarily relevant anymore because the whole market context changed. And therefore, what we also see, another trend that we see, is that performance management process became an ongoing process. It's more dynamic. The objectives need to be more dynamic, and we need to constantly adapt those objectives to the economic context and the market context around us. Then I think, again, being remotely means that we are not close enough to our people. Okay, we can have video calls, we can have virtual meetings, but of course, we are not next to them to talk to them on an ongoing basis. And in performance management, I think what we see is that the feedback is really, really important. People need to know, on the one hand, what are their objectives, so that to have clarity on what they need to achieve, but also they need constant feedback. They need to know how they perform on an ongoing basis, and not at the end of the year when it's too late for them to do anything. And we see that a lot of companies are really focusing these days into finding ways of keeping in touch with their employees and communicating with their employees, telling them what they do well. The power of positive feedback, I think it's really important. People need to know how they do things, but also the importance of constructive feedback, that feedback that tells the employee what they can improve, what they can do differently in the future, and how to really do things in a different way so that they ensure they meet their objectives. In this context, of course, we talk about digitization of different processes, and performance management is not an exception. And therefore, we try to find ways of having a smooth performance management process even in a virtual environment. And here I want to mention the KPMG way of doing things. We'll talk about the tool that KPMG has available. We use this tool internally for KPMG employees, but we also offer this tool for our clients. And this tool is called KPMG Quercus Up Performance. It is a tool that digitizes the whole performance cycle, from setting objectives to continuous feedback and to regular reviews. And we will have, I will give the word to Claudia to show you how this tool works, but just a few words before we do that. This is a cloud-based app. It's accessible via website, and it's very easy to use. It's very intuitive, it's user-friendly, and not only you can use it on your computers, but it's also optimized for mobile use, so you can very easily use it on your mobile devices such as phone and tablets. And what it does and how it all started, it started as a continuous feedback app. Basically, in 3 clicks, you can ask for feedback in the organization to anyone in an organization, or you can give feedback to anyone. And literally, you need 3 clicks to do that. And companies find it really useful and easy to use. And then the application evolved, and now it has different modules. One is the continuous feedback module, but then it has additional modules where companies and employees can set objectives, and they can also do the reviews on a regular basis. And these are not necessarily annual reviews. They can be annual reviews. But they can also be more frequent reviews, like quarterly or every half a year, or whatever suits the process of the company which is set up. Without any further ado, I don't want to talk more about it, but I'll ask Claudia to jump in and show us how the tool really works. As Neil was saying earlier, we really want to have a conversation with you if possible. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat box of this meeting, and we will take them either as we go or at the end of the presentation. Claudia?
Thank you, Madalina. Before showing you the application in a brief demo, I would just like to stay a little bit on the principle side and talk about how the application is structured. The application has been developed about 4 years ago by a startup in Switzerland. We got in touch with the application, I think, more than 3 years ago, when we wanted to bring to KPMG a technology solution that would help us give more feedback internally. We tested it initially, then we rolled it out to the entire organization with very good results, and then we took over the application, we bought the application, and we own it now. And as Madalina mentioned, we offer it to our clients, and we continue to develop it since. The tool has been developed in this specific context that Madalina mentioned, that in the last couple of years, even before the pandemic, the annual appraisal process has often been perceived as being too rigid and an exercise in process compliance rather than a genuine tool for performance. One thing in particular that was commented upon was the fact that the focus on performance development was often lost. The process was too focused on the performance rating. The performance conversation was, in principle, just waiting for the rating discussion. And the feedback usually came late, unspecific, and most times unstructured and difficult to do anything with it. Of course, we know that today's employees are eager to receive feedback more often rather than waiting for it on an annual or semi-annual basis. And this is what Quercus does very well. It digitizes the exchange of feedback in organizations and assists organizations to run a continuous performance process with focus on feedback. The application has two modules, as Madalina mentioned. We have the feedback module and we have the performance module, which I'll show you in a minute. And in the application, feedback is structured. It is competency-based, and it takes into account the competency models of each organization, if they have one. If they don't have one, of course, this is something that we work on together, or we can help with, or not, depending on what the organization wants, before setting up their own Quercus account. Employees can ask for and they can give for feedback in real time through a simple platform, which is also mobile friendly. And anyone can give feedback to anyone in the organization. And I think Madalina mentioned already, which we found very useful because it has this multi-source approach. And feedback is no longer unidirectional from your direct manager. What it also does, it collects all this feedback, and it can identify trends based on the feedback exchanged in the application. So it can show the employee and his or her manager what are the key areas of focus, what are the strengths, or what are the areas for improvement based on all the feedback received. On the performance management module, I think the key thing is also flexibility. The application offers the possibility to set dynamic objectives, which can be monitored and which can be revised during the year to, of course, take account of what's happening around us and of this ever-changing environment. And on the performance evaluation side, what we found very interesting is that it allows organizations to configure what they want to assess and when they want to assess on their own. So with this tool, organizations can decide, for example, to have an annual performance evaluation and assess at the end of the year the objectives for the employees, as well as competencies maybe, and assign ratings for this. And they can also decide to run more often check-ins, but this can be run without a rating and just as a possibility to discuss progress against objectives, to discuss any development needs or any needs for support. So I would say that, as I mentioned, what it does, it allows organizations to run a performance process that is continuous and that it's ongoing, but it's also suitable for organizations that still want to go to the more traditional approach and only run performance evaluations once a year. So I would just go straight into showing you the application now. Just a second to show you my screen. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, excellent. Good. So what we have here, it's the landing page of the tool, of the application. This is basically what every user will see once they enter the tool. And this page will show users what's been happening in the application recently. We have on the top of the page the two buttons that are very straightforward: ask for feedback and give for feedback. I'll show you how they work in a minute. But then we'll have a graph that shows trends, historical trends with regards to feedbacks that I have received. This is my demo account, so this would be feedbacks received by me within the last couple of months. This is just a historical representation. It doesn't have a lot of detail because we're on a dashboard page. We see the details someplace else in the application, and I'll show you in a minute where. Then what we also see on the dashboard page is a list of any feedback requests if we have received a request for feedback and we haven't responded to it. And here I would like to stop for a moment. Anything that happens in the application generates and triggers notifications via email. So if I receive a feedback from a colleague, I would receive a notification on my email saying, hey, you have feedback from Madalina, for example, and there is a link to the feedback receipts and that I can access, and it will bring me in the app. And it's the same for feedback requests. If someone asks for feedback, I get an email and I have a link there that I can access. But if I disregard the email, as sometimes it happens, the feedback request is still here in the app, and every time you access the app, you will have it on the dashboard. Then I see a list of recently received feedbacks. These are just the most recent ones. As I mentioned, this is the dashboard, and it just shows us what's been happening lately with my account. I will just show you very quickly how we give feedback. Madalina mentioned it's a 3 clicks process. What we need a title of the feedback to understand a little bit the context of the feedback, what we want to give feedback for. For example, I can give feedback for Madalina for the BRCC webinar. Then I need to search for the recipient in the account. All employees are already, of course, uploaded in the application when we set up the account for the company. So all I need to do is type the name of the person, either the first or the surname, and the application will find the person. I don't have Madalina in my demo account, so I will type another name. Okay, once the application sees the name of the person, it will bring a list of competencies that are relevant for this person. As I mentioned, the feedback is given based on competencies. So we work with each organization to either understand their competency model and upload it in the app, or with helping them define a brief or more extensive, detailed and targeted competency model to identify what are the relevant skills and behavior in that specific organization. These competencies can be the same for all employees in the organization, or they can differ depending on the level, either a manager or a staff level, or they can differ depending on the function. You often have a set of competencies in sales, for example, and a different set of competencies in a finance department. So these are customizable depending also on the function and the level of the employee. But of course, users don't have to bother themselves with this information. The app will automatically bring the list of competencies that are relevant for NOAA. And what I can do now is just, okay, I want to give feedback for this webinar. I need to click and see what competencies I want to comment upon. Leadership, yeah, maybe I want to give feedback for leadership, or most often for a webinar, I would give feedback around communication. So I click on communication, and I have 2 specific skills under the communication category. If I go with the mouse over the name of this competency, I also see a quick definition, and I see that keeping communication professional means something. And communication, clear communication, is a different competency that is uploaded in our demo account. This is, of course, customizable. This is just an example. So what I need to do to give feedback is click on the rating that I believe it's relevant and appropriate. The scale for the rating is also customizable, and we use the scale of each company. We have here in our account a rating scale of 1 to 7, but of course other rating scales can be uploaded. So I'll click on this, and I would include a comment. The comment section can be made mandatory, or it can remain optional. This is something that we agree with the clients when we set up the account. There are arguments for both options. There are also arguments against that deal with adoption, that deal with the value of the feedback. Of course, just clicking on a rating, we believe, is not enough, and including comments is really valuable for the person that receives feedback. So that's all I need to do. I need the title, as I mentioned. I need to select the name of the person, and I need to click click on the feedback rating and include comments. What we are hearing from our clients sometimes is that on the continuous feedback side, they are interested to see if feedback can be in free form and not specifically related to a competence. And it can. What we do to manage this request, we add a new category which is called general feedback, for example, and users can select that category and include something that they cannot necessarily map to a specific competency category. So once I click at least on a competencies, all I need to do is click save. Sorry, I can't really see the end of the section because I have the Zoom account here. Okay, here it is. So all I need to do is either click Save Draft or click Send. And once I do this, the person will receive my feedback on their email. Ask for feedback is identical. It's the same type of form. I can ask for feedback and I need to say what am I asking feedback for. Is it a task? Is it a project? Is it a meeting? It can be for anything, of course. This is where I need to input the name of the person that I would like to ask feedback from. And here I can actually include more names, so I can ask for feedback from more than one person in the same time. I don't need to write numerous forms. And then I can also request feedback for a specific competency or request feedback for all. On the other side, and then I click send. That's it, basically. When Noah or Christina receive my feedback request, they will be able to decide if they give feedback on all these competencies or if they give feedback only for one competency in particular, because they haven't actually had an opportunity to observe behaviors on the other skills. So this is basically it with regards to how the feedback exchange happens in the app. As mentioned, the process is really easy, and being mobile friendly, what we notice is that many times we use it from our mobile. We don't need to be in front of a computer to do this. I'll show you how a feedback form that I have received looks like. This is basically here you have an overall average of all the ratings that I have received in this feedback form. I have the title of the feedback here, the name of the person that gave me the feedback, and the date. With regards to the name of the person, also the application has an option that when we configure it, we can have the names of the person visible, or we can make the feedback exchange anonymous should the organization want this. Again, there are arguments for or against this anonymity, but this is from a technical standpoint, we can absolutely configure the account on an anonymous basis. And then I see in the feedback form, okay, for what skills I have received feedback. Again, I can see the definition of the feedback, I see the rating, and I see comments where comments appear. What I can do with this feedback is first of all, say thanks. If I click on this button, the application will generate a notification to my colleagues, to Samantha's email, saying, hey, Claudia, thanks you for the feedback, which is very valuable to her. I can export the feedback. or I can look on some tips, read some tips about how to make the most out of the received feedback. These orange buttons spread throughout the applications include some tips for users, which are useful particularly for organizations that maybe haven't had so much training with regards to feedback exchange or any other actions that are done in the app. So that's it with feedback. What the app does with the feedback, it's very interesting also. First of all, it stores the feedback. So we have this section called Feedback Overview in our menu. And if we access it, we'll see all the received feedback or all the feedback that I have sent, I've requested, any drafts that I have started, or my self-assessment, because it allows also self-assessment functionalities. But more interestingly, it's the application processes the feedback exchange, and it will show me very quickly, if I access my feedback insights page, what are my top 5 strengths and my top 5 areas to improve based on the feedback that I have received in the application. And this is, of course, very useful because I can see very quickly where I need to focus on. If I click on one of these areas to improve, and of course strengths as well, it will move me to a more detailed page where I will see what is the overall average, but I will also see where is this 5 coming from. And it's coming from 2 feedbacks, one from Alvina for project finance, and another one also from Alvina from a demo call. And this is where Alvina gave me feedback for this competency in particular. And I can, of course, view the full detail or just view the rating, the average rating. The overview page is also interesting here because it shows me, okay, the historical trend that I see on the dashboard, but also I see average ratings for each of the categories of competencies that my organization uses. So I will see again very quickly where I need to improve, if there is a particular area that I need to focus on. Here we have the possibility to apply some filters as well. I can filter by time period, and the application calculates again automatically the average for the selected period, or I can filter by feedback provider, and I can see feedbacks only from direct reports or from line manager or from colleagues in my team. So this sort of information, this type of information, this is what I see with regards to my performance, but the same type of information is available for managers with regards to the performance of their teams, of their subordinates. So if I'm a manager, I would go under team, feedback insights, and I will see here the application calculates now in real time these top 5 strengths and top 5 areas to improve for my teams. Here in this account, I'm a manager for more than one team, but I can select for ratings for a specific team or even for a specific individual in the team. So I basically have access to this sort of information up to down to the very detail of the individual feedback forms that I can see as well as a manager. One other interesting feature for managers is that they can ask for feedback. This is a feature that we added recently in response to requests from our clients. They said that they want managers to ask for feedback from other team members or from other colleagues in the organization on behalf of their subordinates. So here I can basically select the name of the employee I want to request feedback for, and I can send a request for feedback to anyone in the organization. And this feedback form will then come back to the employee that I've requested feedback for. I, as a manager, of course, will be able to see the feedback as well. So that's it with the feedback. We hear what we hear from our clients and from those that we discuss with is that it is indeed simple. This is what we liked about it. It's quite straightforward. You have everything from the dashboard, and the insights are useful to help because they help employees, they help managers, but also HR to some extent to identify what are the areas that need development, and they can bring development interventions, they can bring training, or they can help the employee focus on developing those skills. On the performance management side, I won't go into a lot of detail. There are some details for administrators that, of course, I won't go into detail now. As I mentioned, every organization can quickly set up their own performance cycle, and they can decide what to evaluate, when to evaluate, what are the deadlines in the process, by when needs an employee to assess performance. Is it the employee that has a role in writing goals, or is it just the manager or that assigns goals? Again, does the performance management cycle include a self-assessment in the process or not? This is just some clicks that the admins of the application, which are usually people in HR, that need to do when configuring a new performance year and the new performance cycle. I'll show you what the employees will see on their side. If they click objectives, they will be able, of course, to either view objectives or write objectives if they have this right, if their organization decided that employees can also write or edit objectives in the tool. They'll need to select a performance cycle. And once they do this, they either see a list of goals that has been assigned to them. And here, because it is an older demo account, we also have the status of achievement. So these are my targets in the demo account for this financial year. And I have actually entered the application, and I have inserted the degree of achievement for each of these goals. And the app will show me in a visual form how close I am to reaching these targets. But I can also create objectives because in my organization, this is one of the steps in the process, and I can write objectives in the app. And how I can do this is I need to write a title for the objectives. Let's say sales. I like this example. Then I can either include a description, which is in text format, or I can add a key result, a KPI. When we have quantitative goals or goals that can be measured in quantitative results, usually, of course, we use the KPI section. So for sales, I need to define what is the performance indicator, what is the key result. It can be new clients, monthly sales. And then I need to write the actual target. So this key result can be measured either in a value format or in a percentage format or in a monetary format. If we talk about new client monthly sales, let's say I have a target of, I don't know, $100,000. So this is where I write my target. And then what I also need to do is add the deadline for this objective. I would say the end of the year. Then I can assign it to a specific category of objectives if my admin has defined specific categories. There are organizations that have their own categories. Well, using this balanced scorecard approach, for example. So I can assign it to this. And this is basically it. This is the mandatory information. I need a title, I need a due date. This is absolutely mandatory. And I can include either a description or a KPI to measure this objective. Once I do this, I can't have two objectives with the same title. This is why I've written a different one. Once I do this, I just save the objective. And then during the year, I can enter into the application and I can include how close or how far I am to achieving it. And if I do this, it will show me visually in this format. And this is a type of information that I would see, but also my manager would see. I'll show you what the managers see on their end. They will need to select, of course, an objective cycle. As they do this, they will see the list of their employees. This is all the employees that I have. And then for each of them, they will see a number of objectives that they have, and they will see the actual objectives that they have. In this format, they can view them, they can edit them, they can add comments, and they can delete them, or they can create new objectives. It's the same type of form that you've seen previously. The difference is that I can apply one objective to my full team, or I can apply it to specific users. There are cases when the same objective is cascaded down to individual employees, and I don't need to write this over and over again. I can only write it once. So this is the objectives. With regards to reviews, I'll show you what a manager sees. Again, if the organization has a process that includes a self-assessment stage, employees will be able to write self-assessments as well. But I, as a manager, if I go to the reviews page, I select the relevant review cycle, and this is what I see. I see again the list of my with all my employees. I see the status with regards to their performance assessment. I see where they are in the stage and where I am in the stage with regards to their evaluation. Of course, with regards to status, this can be either started or not started. It can be, okay, I've started the performance review, but I haven't actually completed, or it can be signed, which means that it's ended, it's ended completely. And I'll show you how a review form looks like. It's quite simple. Once you click on it, depending on what HR has set up at the beginning of the cycle, I will see on the form either the list of competencies structured by category, of course, with the skills below them, and the objectives, depending on what specific objectives this employee has in their goal, they will appear on my evaluation form. And what I need to do as a manager is, again, assign a rating on the same scale that is used by the organization. This is, as I mentioned, customizable. And I need to assign a rating and write comments. This time the comment section is not optional. It's mandatory to write comments because, okay, performance assessment is usually not that often, and it shouldn't be complicated to include comments to explain why you have assigned such a rating. What's interesting here is that the tool has this helpful review assistance section, and it brings details from other section of the application. So I, as a user, don't need to click in other modules to find out information about, for example, the self-assessment. Once the self-assessment of Alvina is done, I will see it here. I can see details about the objectives, because on the form I only see the title of the objective and the rating skill. I actually see all the details here, and I also see the feedback received by Alvina. If she has feedback during this performance here, I would see it here in the app as well. So this way, the performance assessment is quicker, and it's hopefully more objective, because if we see feedback received during the year, it's based on, you actually see the information already in the app. You don't have to remember what Alvina has done for the last 12 months, and you don't have to base your rating on, I don't know, the last thing that Alvina did very well, or the last thing that Alvina did during the last 2 months and that I can remember. So This is about it also with the performance module. Of course, for admins, they can also see information about what's happening with regards to objective. They can download this information, of course, and they can see how many objectives there are and which are these objectives in particular. With regards to reviews, they can see the same type of information that this is a new cycle that we've created. So I want to enter there. They will see the same type of information as the manager. They will see the status of each employee, and they will be able to see ratings as well. And they can also download this into an Excel format and take it out of the application. Admins will see some other type of information. For example, they would see company insights. They will see which are the top 5 strengths and top 5 areas to improve for the whole organization. They will be able to filter, of course, by team or by job or by employee. They will see the pulse of the organization, how much feedback is exchanged at organizational level or at job or team level or even at individual level. This is very useful, particularly when an organization initially implements Quercus, because it shows you how used the tool is. With regards to use adoption, one thing that I would like to mention is that from our experience, it's not really enough just to take the tool and launch it and send an email and say, hey, we have a tool, it's there, use it. So what we do with our clients, usually we work on some communication plans. It depends, of course, on each organization, how much focus they want to put on communication and change management type of activity. But generally, if you bring feedback in an organization that it's not used to feedback, it's good to have some sort of a plan to help the organization adapt to the new process. I will stop here because I think that I covered a lot of detail. Of course, I would be happy to answer questions, and I'll be happy also to have a more specific demo for anyone that is interested to see it and discuss how this could work in their organization. We see a lot of interest mainly from many times from companies that either don't have a tool at all and they want to digitize their process, but also from companies that want to put more focus on feedback. And I think feedback is a key word these days when we really need to be closer to our employees somehow, if not staying next to them in the office. So I'd be happy to answer questions if you have.
Perhaps I can ask one, please, Claudia.
Please, Neil.
Thank you. How long have you had this in operation in KPMG? Was
it's already
response to COVID, or was it already planned before that?
No. I think it's 3 years already. I always forget the exact number of years. We brought it because we wanted to have a stronger feedback culture. So it's been about 3 years. And we must say that it's been really nice to have it internally, because of course, as every big organization, we've been talking about the importance of continuous feedback for many years now, more than 3, definitely. But often people didn't really give feedback until the end of the year or half of the year when we had the interim review. So we have our employees are generally young people. I think the average age is something around 24, maybe, if I remember correctly. And people around this age, and not only this age, of course, but in particular, people in this generation don't want to wait for 6 months to receive feedback. So we've seen a lot of, we've heard from our employees that they want to see feedback more often from their managers, from their colleagues, and we searched for a tool that would help people give feedback more easily, let's say. And giving feedback from your mobile from the taxi or from your home. Even sometimes when you're at home, it takes you 2-3 minutes rather than having a face-to-face discussion, which takes you more. Of course, we were never meant to replace the face-to-face interaction with the tool. On the contrary, we just wanted a tool that would give us a new channel that we could use to give more feedback that we heard from our employees that they want.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Nope, no questions from anybody. I think it's been a very, we've held the numbers very well during your presentation. So thank you very much indeed. Are there any other final questions? Because we're coming up to the hour. No, well, if there are questions, no doubt people can
take them, yeah.
offline. As I said, we will have this presentation, the recording of this presentation on the Chamber's website and YouTube channel. So, well, thank you both very much indeed for an interesting presentation. I think, as you say, feedback is important. Unless you know where you are, you can't know where you need to go. So that's certainly an important thing. Right, Anna and Madalena, thank you very much. I think I also, Stefan, thank you to the Chamber team for organizing this. I think the people we've seen today show that this is something which is good to keep going even during August, because we have people here, I know in the UK, who come into this call, as well as based in all parts of Romania. Anna, when's our next event, please?
Thank you, Neil. Thanks everyone who participated today, and thanks of course to our speakers for a very informative webinar. We will still have 2 webinars this month, even though it's a vacation month. So we'll have next Monday a very interesting webinar on leading in complex times, together with Transylvania Executive Education from Cluj. And in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have a very interesting webinar on mindfulness and on stress release, together with Terme Bucharest. Yeah, if you want to check on our event, I just texted here our link to our website, and you can check there all our events and also sign up. Thank you very much, everyone who attended this, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Goodbye. Bye.